All right, welcome back, everybody. I have a very special guest with me today, Mr. John McGregor. John, welcome to Dirty Boots Capital.
Tony, it's awesome to be here. Love the show. Love what you're doing. Really
Thanks,
commendable.
man. I appreciate your support. So, for for the viewers, I know you. You are a very humble gentleman. So I'm going to plug you a little bit here. Do my best, right? So for the folks that don't know John, John hangs with the likes of Robert Kiyosaki, Kim Kiyosaki, Ken McElroy, right? Tom Wheelwright. John is so well connected and in that world where they have much higher level conversations and trying to figure out what's going on in the economy today, right? And what we all need to be doing to help ourselves, right? So John has also appeared on the Rich Dad radio show many times with Robert Kiyosaki. And John is also one of the Rich Dad advisors, which is very cool. He recently wrote the book, The Top 10 Reasons the Rich Go Broke. So that's a huge accomplishment. And then he's also an if that wasn't enough, right? I just want to give the folks a sense of the superstar we have with us today, right? If that wasn't enough, John is an international speaker and a certified financial planner. So, John, how did I do? Did I do it justice? What did I miss?
I'm a little flattered and embarrassed at the same time, but that's very nice of you. I should take you on the road with me.
Well, I definitely. I want to frame the thought process, the conversation we're going to be having today, so folks understand the level of guest we have with us today. And so I truly appreciate you coming on with us to share what your thoughts are. So let's get into it. So, well, first, let's talk about, you have a new book coming out too, right?
Yes, I do. It's called Wired for Wealth. And the publishing date is yet to be determined, but the book's done. And now I'm just looking at publishing options right now. So excellent. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on that. Yeah, it's no small feat, that's for sure. So kudos.
Hardest thing I've ever done, as you know. I was not a good student. My English teacher would be laughing right now if she knew I wrote a book.
I was definitely a C student.
Oh, yeah.
So all right, let's roll into talking about what happened yesterday. So yesterday, a new CPI number came out. So 9.1, the highest in over 40 years, I think they said. So what are your thoughts about that new CPI print, John?
Well, it wasn't surprising to me. I mean, just we all feel it, right? Every day, every time we go to a store or a gas pump. I mean, I just spent $165 filling up my truck. Wow. It's crazy. This is in California, and I live in a part of California that has some of the lower gas rate prices. So I can't imagine what some other families and people are dealing with in this massive inflation crunch. And I think we're just in the beginning of this. This transitory or temporary inflation that we were told by the administration has not been transitory. And I think it's going to be permanent for a long time. I think, well, I believe we're already in a recession. I'm not waiting for the Fed to tell me we're in a recession. And the second quarter GDP numbers come out, I think on the 19th or very soon. Yeah. And already the Atlanta Fed has said we're looking at negative 2% GDP growth. So that would be two back-to-back quarters of negative GDP growth, which is by definition a recession. But I think we entered a recession a while ago. We are in stagflation. And I think, to quote Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, we're headed straight to the eye of a storm.
Yeah. And
definitely a recession, but is this a depression that we're looking at? Not a recession, a depression. And that's why, this show and your book and what we do is so important for so many people, because I hear from people all over the world. I can hear it in their emails. I can feel the fear that they have, the stress and the concern. How are they going to get through this? So it's really the perfect storm. We'll get more into it, but it's scary times right now.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we've shown on some of my videos and other people's videos that are out there on YouTube, and I think YouTube is a great source of education, free education, if you're watching the right ones, to be able to listen to some folks showcasing some of this information. Like, I was talking about a recession 5 months ago, right? I didn't need the FMOC to come out and tell me what the GDP was going to be, right? And so that's the sort of stuff that you are bringing forward, I'm bringing forward, trying to give folks advanced warning as to what's coming down, right? Like just this morning, I was chatting with somebody, and because of the CPI print, I said, I shared with them, oh, mortgage rates are going up. And they kind of looked at me a little funny. And then a few hours later, I saw an article on Yahoo Finance saying Yahoo rates are back up. The mortgage rates are back up. And I thought to myself, yeah, it's and that's our task in life, is to try to help people, educate people on what's to come. So the question becomes, do you believe the Fed will be able to get inflation under control?
I don't think so. I don't think they're taking an aggressive enough stance. I mean, they basically back themselves up into a corner, right? Yeah. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. No matter what they do, they're going to affect some aspect of the economy in a big way. They could have just tapped on the brakes a little bit long time ago, yeah, and slowed this thing down slowly. But for political reasons, they didn't want to slow the economy down. And in the end, I believe it's all political what's going on, certainly at the Fed. But as someone I recently heard say that, now we're at a point where not only do you have to really put on the brakes, you got to slam on the brakes, meaning we got to really raise interest rates to tame this inflation down. And you know what happens when you slam on your brakes? Yeah. You and the passenger next to you go right through the windshield, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So right. Like what Volcker did in the Reagan years, he had to take rates way up in order to slow this thing down. And so that's, I believe, what they're going to have to do. And I think they're hoping that something magic is going to happen on its own. But given this number that just came out as 9.1 inflation, I think they're going to have to get very aggressive with rate rises, rate increases, and then that will definitely put us into recession, because that's just really going to slow everything down.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. They're going to have to take the rates up to slow the economy down. And not only that, I think they're going to have to get a little more aggressive with their quantitative tightening program, yeah, right? Their QT program, which is going to take money out of the economy, right? It's going to take some currency out of the economy, which, just supply and demand. If there's less of something, i.e. currency in the economy, it gets more expensive to borrow, because there's less of it. It's just simple economics 101. So that's why it's somewhat easy for us to see some of these things as it's playing out. So one of the interesting dynamics is the Fed has this mandate, the two-pronged mandate of their requirement is to control inflation, but also control unemployment. And so with the recent unemployment number earlier this month of 300,000 new people were employed into the economy, right? They don't so much have a issue having to control unemployment, because it sounds like more people are going back to work. So unemployment's a non-issue. So that just gives it more credibility that they're going to take rates higher, right? Mm-hmm. Do you agree?
Absolutely. Disagree? Yeah, 100%. You're dead on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the trickle-down effect of this is just enormous. It impacts everything. Rates rise, our dollar's going to rise, what's going to make our products less competitive in the world. That's going to slow that thing down even more. Just think about a 30-year mortgage. We were recently at a 3% interest rate for a 30-year mortgage, right? And on a $500,000 home, now it's at 6% and going higher. That's an additional $360,000 just in interest payments, yeah, on a $500,000 loan over a 30-year time period. That's devastating. $360,000, and now we're going to 7, 8, and even higher. If you look back in the 80s, we were in the mid to late high teens, right? So, like I said, I think this is the perfect storm that we have not seen, and I hope that people are preparing for it. That's what I'm trying to do, is get people to wake up and realize, because too many people just have their head in the sand, hoping that everything's going to work out in the end. And I will tell you, in the 27 years I've been working with thousands of individuals, entrepreneurs, business owners, hope is not a strategy.
I love, it's so funny. I resonate with you on so many levels about this stuff, because I share with people the same thing. I say, I never hope and I never try. I have a plan and I execute to that plan, right? I never hope and I never try. Guys, you got to have a plan. You got to take action on a plan, right? Don't hope, don't try. It's never going to happen, right?
It's funny you say that. When I look back on all the people I've worked with, those that thrive or really crush it in life versus those that are just merely surviving, hanging on, struggling, really boil down to two simple things. I know this sounds oversimplistic, but the people that thrive or thriving, regardless of what's going on in the world or the economy, they had a process, a proven and effective process. They stuck to it, they implemented it, and number two, they took action. Process and action. Those are the two things that differentiate those that struggle versus those that don't struggle. And, I use the analogy. It's like if you were to bake a cake, you didn't know how, would you just go to the store and buy ingredients and throw it all together in a pan and then throw it into the oven at some temperature you had no, you would get a 5-star recipe, right? That explains specifically what to do to create this beautiful cake. Yet when it comes to people's financial lives, they don't do that. They deviate from a strategy or a plan or a process, a formula, a recipe, whatever term you want to utilize. And they just kind of wing it, like I said, hoping everything works out in the end. And sadly, that's why so many people are suffering today. So.
Yeah, you're so right, John. I was at my local RIA, Real Estate Investment Association meeting just last night. And so I listened to all you smart guys, right? You, Kiyosaki, Ken McElroy, George Gammon, Jason Hartman, right? All you smart guys I listen to, right? But I also have boots on the ground. I'm listening to what my local community is saying. And so I go to my local RIA and we're networking, just talking. And I overheard a couple of people during the meeting yesterday talk about how they were almost boasting, excited about this new CPI print number of 9.1%, almost boasting about it. Like, oh, my property value is going to go up and I'm going to have more equity. And I'm thinking to myself, guys, don't you understand what this, I didn't say anything because I didn't want to cause controversy, but, I'm thinking to myself, guys, don't you know what this is going to do to your tenants? Your tenants are getting destroyed on the price for food, the price for energy, right? And the price for gas. Here, we got a notice in the mail from the electric company that the rates were going up 100%, John. They were going up 100%, and on average, it was going to impact the consumer by the tune of $70 a month increase.
Wow,
that's huge, right?
That's huge.
So, like you say, we need to help people with some financial education and some help out there, because even these landlords that I would expect to be somewhat financially savvy, they're talking in a way where they're not even looking at the economics of things. They don't know what's happening to their customers, the tenants, and that's going to put them in a very risky situation, I think.
No question about it.
Yeah. So absolutely. And then also, small businesses with this new CPI print of 9.1, do you think that's going to help small businesses, John?
Absolutely not. It's crushing them. I mean, right now I just saw a recent analysis or survey that says 61% of small business owners are very concerned about the future. I mean, they're very negative. Their outlook is very negative. But then our administration just continues to double down on dumb. They want to raise corporate taxes on S corps and LLCs by $400 billion in the midst of all of this. Yeah. So that's the other headwind that we're facing. We have and I don't mean to get political here, Tony, but we have an administration that's doing everything to prevent us from getting out of this mess. And you have to question whether or not this is intentional, which I believe it is. So we have all these things working against us, and then our own administration, our own government is preventing us, is holding back any solutions that would alleviate all these problems. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah. And again, it's fired up over this. No, I love the passion. I love the passion that you have for this stuff. And it's one of the reasons, again, that I love watching your videos. I love, talking to guys like yourself and Kiyosaki and McElroy and others, because you guys are looking at the bigger picture, right? We need to elevate our thoughts and be looking at all these different things that are impacting our world, right? And so for these small businesses, you're right. We know we're in a political environment today that is not, so to speak, I'll say pro small business, right? No. You look at the energy, right? The energy, the gas, the oil prices, they're getting impacted. You look at what's happened with, the stimulus checks and people who didn't want to go back to work, haven't gone back to work. these small businesses continue. I know I chat with some of these local contractors. They continue to have it be very difficult to find good help that will stay with them. And
Yeah.
then just being able to price out, if you're a contractor, how can you price out jobs if you don't know what the prices of material are going to be next month, or let alone 6 months from now when you get to doing that job? So as a small business, how do you know what your profits are going to be? Or when you're selecting your menu, if you're a small restaurant, what your food selection is going to be, or if you can get that particular food item to put on your menu, not alone, not, what you're going to have to pay for it. But, it's again, one of those things by chatting with smart people like yourself and others. 5 months ago, I posted a video on my channel, why small businesses are dying. It,
Mhm.
it wasn't a surprise, and it's not a surprise to me. The intel that you're sharing, that 66%, are facing into this with a concerning attitude, right? So, I don't think it's going to get any better. I think we're going to see a wave of closures for some of these small businesses. Is my take.
Yeah, even on that subject, we're starting to see layoffs now or curbing of hiring. I mean, think about this. Tesla reported first quarter earnings or revenue. It was a blowout number. It was like 80% increase over year. I think it was revenue. It was a massive first quarter. Right after that, they announced a layoff of 10% of its workforce. So here's a company that just had an amazing first quarter, and then they announced a layoff of 10% of their workforce. I think they've dialed that number back. But I mean, doesn't that tell you, to me, that's a massive red flag. I mean, that's a company that's doing well. Think of other companies that have been struggling due to COVID and other reasons, what they're going to do to their labor force. So, we're seeing a lot of tech companies are laying off. Carvana, Netflix. I mean, you go down the list, and hiring's at almost a freeze for a lot of these companies, and now layoffs look imminent, given the headwind that we're facing.
Yeah, I think people need to be paying a little closer attention to what's going on in the economy right now, because I do agree with you. Yeah, the question is not if we're going to be in a recession, because I think that's already answered for us. I think the question that you posed is it going to be a depression, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or how deep of a recession are we going to find ourselves in? So it's really concerning for just the average person out there. So let's talk a little bit about retirement, right?
Yeah.
We have a lot of folks who are in retirement or who are going to be retiring very soon, right? With these baby boomers getting older, right? So we talk about the three-legged stool for retirement, right? To fund your retirement, you have three things. You have your savings, which we know very few people, I don't know if you have the stats, but very few people have a savings account, right? We have Social Security that is due to go bust in 2034, 2035, depending on how you look at it. Right. So we very weak Social Security system. And then we have pensions, aka 401ks, where we've seen this year, the stock market, I believe, is down about 20% this year. We have crypto, which some of these pension funds invest a small percentage in, but nonetheless, we have crypto in a very bear market. And then we also have this geopolitical issue with Russia, where Russian assets have all been frozen. And we all know pension funds invest in Russia. So now these pensions have money that is frozen in these Russian assets. They can't get them out. And do you think these Russian assets, are increasing in value at this time? Not at all. They're going down. So maybe you can help us kind of talk through that a little bit. What are we facing into here, John?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unravel there. I mean, this is a crisis of epic proportions. When I broke away from the corporate world to start my new process that I've been teaching for 10 years around the world, 73% of working adults, these aren't homeless people, these are working adults, 73% were living paycheck to paycheck. Fast forward to today, it's 78% of working adults are living paycheck to paycheck. In fact, I just saw a recent survey in the USA Today said a third of individuals making over $250,000 are living paycheck to paycheck.
Wow.
So this has nothing to do with how much money people make, because what I've witnessed firsthand by so many people, if they're making this, they're spending this. If they're making this, they're spending this. So it doesn't matter rich or poor, high income or low income, it doesn't matter. most people are struggling financially. 64% of people could not come up with $500 for an emergency expense. 64%, $500. I mean, that's absolutely terrifying. 60% of Americans will outlive their retirement, outlive their savings in retirement. 60%. 40% of millennials haven't saved anything at all. 65% of people are deemed financially illiterate. These are people between 25 and 65, financially illiterate, and it's not their fault. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah.
And specifically to women, 70% of women will at some point live in poverty. 70%. 80% of women living in poverty today were not living in poverty when their husbands were alive. And of the elderly living in poverty, 3 out of 4 are women. So this is a huge, huge problem for everybody, but especially for women. And you look at you look at what's happened, and you back up and you look at the macro, right? Robert likes to talk a lot about the macro and the reasons behind this. And what I've discovered is that people have been programmed to fail financially, and it's not their fault. They've been programmed to fail financially. The school system has completely ignored financial education, right? I mean, what did you learn about finances or money?
You know, it's so funny. We were at a conference together not too long ago. You were up on stage and you were talking about your experience with home. I think you took a home economics course, just like I took a home economics course. And what did I learn there? I learned how to make chili and how to sew 2 pieces of fabric together and make something silly, right? That, right? I chuckled when you shared that story. I chuckled because I was like, yes, that's exactly what I learned. It wasn't economics, they call it home economics, but I did not learn anything financial, right?
Absolutely. I mean, money was completely ignored in the school system. And by the way, that's deliberate. That is not an accident. That's absolutely deliberate. The government doesn't want a financially savvy population because a financially savvy population cannot be controlled. That's why it's ignored. But anyway, that's another topic. But
no, because then you would know if you were financially literate, you would understand what real money is versus fiat currency, right? And then you would understand what's happening to the dollar today and the fact that it's ever more depreciating each and every day, especially now with these record inflation numbers that we're seeing, right? So if folks understood, if they had that financial literacy, there would be a revolt in the streets. And you're right. The government doesn't want that. They can't have that. So
if people really understood the tax code and how their largest expense are taxes, if people understood where and where that money is going and how their taxes are calculated and how the tax system works, there would be a revolution in this country. I promise you.
You're right, and that's why I'm proud to say believe me, I pay my very fair share of property taxes. We are in a very high property tax area, so I pay my fair share there. But I am very happy to say that I've used the techniques that between Kenny and others that have taught me how to pay zero taxes. I'm implementing that stuff, and I'm happy to say I didn't pay any taxes last year, and I'm on a path not to pay any federal taxes this year. And I'm not doing anything illegal, right? Believe me, I pay my fair share of taxes, right, to the tax man. But anything I can do legally to work around that and keep more in my pocket, that I'm going to do. And I would encourage everybody to do the same thing. And that's one of the things that I teach to folks, to try to help them keep as much as they earn, right? Versus turning it over to the tax man. So that's part of the financial education piece, right? Yeah. So, do you think people understand what money is these days? Our system is so populated with credit. Everywhere you go, every store you walk into, you can get a credit card. Every airline you step onto, you can get an airline credit card. Even when you go into a dealership to buy a car, you can get a GMAC credit card or a Ford credit card, right? There's credit. Do you think people have forgotten what real money is and they interpret credit as money?
Absolutely. It's a great question because it's so easy now to buy stuff, right? There's no psychological attachment to your credit card. You just sweep it and you go. Unlike paying cash, where you do have a psychological attachment to it, it's a lot harder to spend cash than it is a credit card. And these companies know it, right? And that's why they're making it easier and more easier for us to use credit or swipe your phone over it. But yeah, most people that I've worked with have no idea really how money works or the impact of their spending. They'll buy a $1,200 flat screen TV when they already have one, and they'll put it on credit. And they'll say, "Well, what's $50 a month? That's nothing. It's not a big deal. You know, I'll pay for it down the road. It's not $1,200. It's $50 a month. You know."
Yeah, I have to say, it's almost worse than that. It's sad to say. I have tenants who will move out of an apartment and they leave their flat screen TV behind. It's not cracked, it's not broken. You know, maybe they lost the remote, but you can get another remote. It's still hanging up on the wall, right? They have it, bolted to the wall. So it must have still been working, right? It's almost like they have a disregard for something they paid, I'll say money or used credit to buy. They're leaving it behind. So there's this, kind of blasé feeling about what they have.
It's a great example.
I don't know. It's very curious to me what's going on. So let's talk about, maybe now is a good time to transition into your previous book, The Top 10 Reasons the Rich Go Broke. Help us understand that title and what that book is about.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. And this was Robert's idea, by the way. For years, I've been telling him stories about, we're both from Hawaii, and so we know a lot of the same people. And so for years, I've been telling him stories of people that we knew that had everything and then lost it all. And so he said, "John, why don't you write a book about why the rich go broke?" And so I mapped it out. And what I realized, and when I really analyzed these 10 individuals of why they suffered financially, why they lost it all, really dealt with an underlying common psychological problem that all people deal with. So although this book is really, it's alluring stories of wealthy people, very powerful emotional stories, this book really gets to the core of why people struggle financially. And it's an acronym I call the BEAR trap, BEAR. And it all starts with the B, and that's beliefs. The underlying root cause of most people's financial problems boils down to their belief system. And research will tell you that upwards of 70% of our beliefs in all aspects of our lives are self-destructive, self-sabotaging, and very limiting, right? And our beliefs run in our subconscious or our unconscious mind, as I like to say, and they're running in our unconscious mind 24/7 on autopilot, like a computer program, and you're not even aware of it. And your beliefs dictate how you think, how you act, how you behave, and ultimately who you become. And these beliefs, a lot of people will say, a lot of experts will say, are almost hardwired by the time you're 7 years old, but definitely hardwired by the time you're in your late teens or early 20s. And these beliefs, again, were accumulated all over throughout your life. And when it comes to money, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, that belief doesn't really pertain to me," or, "I haven't really thought that." But when we drill down deep with individuals, they have that aha moment. They go, "Wow, I had no idea that was actually running my life." Beliefs around money include, it's too complicated. I was never good at math. I wasn't a good student. I didn't grow up with money. It's too hard. Oh, that's way too much for me. I can't afford that. I've got plenty of time to take care of things. Or I don't have time to do the right thing, right? Or I need that new flat screen, or I need that new watch, or I need that new card to play the part. There's so many of these beliefs that are embedded in our minds that are basically running and ruining our lives. So once you start with a harmful and destructive belief, that leads to the excuses that you make in your life as a result of that belief. From excuses is the action or inaction of you doing something, a destructive action, and then the R is the result. That's the destructive result as a result of the B, E, and A. And so although this book, is about the wealthy, it's really the underlying, as I said earlier, it's really the underlying root cause of why people struggle. That's why I always say, change your beliefs and you'll change your life forever. And so the overarching premise of this is learning from people's successes is smart, but learning from people's mistakes is genius, because that's where real learning happens. And just further on this belief thing, Tony, if you will, I remember being in Robert's kitchen, and we're reading. We're each reading a book, and he yells over. He's like, "Hey, McGregor, how many sides does a coin have?" And I just said, "Well, two sides." And he goes, "Try again." So I thought, oh, he's trying to teach me something here, right? So I actually pulled out a coin and I studied it. I'm like, wow, coin actually has three sides. We all forget the edge,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And that's what he said, John, the more you could live on the edge, and that he doesn't mean dangerously, but he said, the more that you could think on the edge and see both sides of things, the better off, the more successful, the more happier you're going to be. And I'll never forget that moment. And that's why our beliefs are so powerful to our overall lives. And so thanks for letting me share that, Tony.
Yeah, no, that is so powerful because, I guess I'll share a couple of perspectives of mine. I look at it, and not to go political, I necessarily don't care who's in office, whether it's a D or an R. I just look at what their agenda is, right? I sit on that edge of the coin and I look on either side and I say, what is their agenda? Which way is this going? How is it going to impact me? And how do I position accordingly? Right. And so, I can have a favorite to say, I'd rather have this person or that person. But at the end of the day, I don't have control over that aspect. But what I do have control over is the actions I take based on what their policies are. And I need to look at that. Right. So that's something that I share with folks many times, that they have to, you don't have to agree with somebody on things, but you can look at it and then take action. Another thing, that we spoke about earlier a couple of times over is the recession, right? That we're in now, right? And how deep is it going to be and whatnot, right? So what are we all doing? We're all watching, to a great extent, we're all watching commodities, right? We're seeing how far commodities are going to fall, right? Silver got down to $17 and change. I think it's back up to 18 and change, but we're all like laser focused on commodities. What's happening with, not only silver, but gold, what's happening with wheat, what's happening with uranium, right? Because we're all tuned into this energy crunch that we're in right now that, nobody can seemingly explain how we're going to get out of this, right? So we're all watching these commodities, right? We're sitting on that edge of the coin, right? Whether we fall to the side of growth or whether we fall to the side of a recession, we want to be positioned to be able to take action, right?
Yep.
And so that's the thing I love about, having these conversations with you guys, because you remind me about that. And so help me understand. This is something I struggle with. So when I do some real estate consulting with folks, I try to help them, position them in an area where they can have some cash flow, but also have some other benefits in terms of offsetting their tax base with depreciation and capital appreciation and things like that. So one of the most difficult things I see is people not being able to take action, right? And I'm struggling with it. So maybe you can help me and also help some of the viewers. Why do folks have trouble taking action?
Yeah. I think the best way to kind of describe that is just a typical story that I've experienced thousands of times in my office. Clients in my office, they lay out all their financial information. I input the data into the software, and I show them clearly that if they continue doing what they're doing, they're going to end in disaster. They're never going to retire. Retire the way they've always envisioned. And they get all nervous and they start nudging each other and like, honey, we got to do something. And they look at me and they go, okay, John, what's the plan? So I lay out a blueprint, a step-by-step process, a bulletproof blueprint for them to follow so that they can achieve the financial life they've always desired, right?
Yeah.
By the time that's over, the plan's implemented, we high five, we pinky swear, we shake, we hug, and they say they are 100% committed to the plan, right? What happens as soon as they leave my office, they're on their way to Best Buy to buy a new flat screen TV on an already maxed out credit card, right? Or a car dealership or something. In other words, Tony, all that planning, all that information had a shelf life of like an hour maybe a couple of days before they're back to the same old behaviors, back to the same old habits, back to what I call living on Pain Island.
Yep.
And that's what a friend of mine told me. And I was expressing to him the exact same thing. He's a thought leader in the field of neuroscience. He said, John, it's because all that information does not cause transformation. Information does not cause transformation. And that was like a 2x4 across my forehead. I was like, oh my gosh, all this time I've been pouring information into people thinking that's going to make them change, but it doesn't. It doesn't change at all. And that's when I had my epiphany, my aha moment. I was like, oh my gosh, I got to find a real solution that really gets to the core of behavioral change, because this isn't a lack of information issue. Just Google how to retire, and there'll be millions of articles telling you exactly what to do. So it's not a lack of information issue. This is a behavioral issue. And the only way to change behavior is at the core of your mental programming. You know, it's like I compare it to the fitness industry. My wife's a dietitian, and in the fitness industry. And we all know we need to eat better and exercise and diet, but most people don't, right? It's the same thing. It's why, you know, New Year's resolutions last 11 days before people quit.
if that, John.
Right? So it's a vicious psychological cycle that so many people are trapped in. And there's really, until now, there's been no meaningful way to escape. And so I think that's why I say the traditional methods of financial planning, telling somebody what to do and what not to do, simply does not work, especially in today's environment. And that's, you know,
so
a huge reason why people are struggling.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. You know, I share with folks, I have my degree is in mechanical engineering, and then I went off to get an MBA because, you know, mom and dad said that was the right thing to do, right? So I followed that recipe, and it helped me to a degree.
Sure.
But I share with folks, instead of an engineering degree, I would have been better served today with a psychology degree, because I cannot wrap my head around. You put a plan in front of folks, I do, you do, to be successful, to have something more tomorrow than they have today, and they don't take the action. So help me understand, what are you doing today? Because I know you speak with a lot of different folks. You do a lot of different training. You have a lot of different tools at your disposal. What are you doing today to help change that mindset between their two ears? What are you doing today to help people?
Yeah, great question, Tony. And please interrupt me if I get on a rant here. But
no, I love your rants, man. I'm just taking it all in.
The problem, what we discovered, is that everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, most people have the same problem when it comes to money. Most people have an unhealthy relationship with money, an unhealthy relationship with money. What that means is that too many people are using money to dull their pain rather than fulfill their purpose. A huge distinction. So there are several challenges that I've studied my students over the years that they're dealing with right now. And perhaps a lot of your listeners are dealing with the same thing. And when it comes to financial struggles, money is the root cause of stress, right? Look at any survey, it'll tell you. And stress is the leading cause of our most deadly diseases and health ailments, from lung disease, cancer, cirrhosis, suicide, insomnia, which is a killer, divorce, high blood pressure, irritability. It's all rooted in people's money problems. So this isn't necessarily just a problem where people are struggling to pay their bills. This is a health crisis. And when you consider that 8 out of 10 people are living paycheck to paycheck, that means this is a bigger epidemic, a health epidemic, than all diseases combined. I mean, think about that. The school system ignores the subject. The financial industry only wants to help those with a lot of money, and all they want to do is sell a financial product. And I'll tell you, a financial product is not what people need right now. And then third, we have social media, which is basically hypnotizing people into spending money to look like somebody else, money they don't have, to buy things they don't need, just to impress people with likes. It's the trifecta. It's the perfect storm. And so when you look at some of the challenges, and we've studied my students over the years, first, their lives feel out of control. They feel as if they're losing control over their mood and their thoughts and the direction of their life, right? Especially with their finances, especially when it comes to their finances. And in this state of mind, it's very difficult to think about long-term planning or budgeting. The second thing that we've noticed people are dealing with is they're preferring to avoid problems. They don't want to face what's going on, right? They got their head buried in the sand. They're looking at the micro, not the macros you talked about. Sitting down to pay bills just fuels the anxiety. It's much more tempting to avoid those sorts of problems, right? And people I work with are so desperate for temporary relief. Then number three, we see this plummeting self-esteem in people. The worse they feel about their financial situation, the worse they feel about themselves. And studies have shown that stress causes a drop in hormone levels, resulting in a decrease in energy and mood and productivity. And it's all because of people's money problems. Then we have unhealed wounds that come back to haunt people. And then there's anger around debt. And this is a big one, Tony, because according to research, the strongest predictor of strain is credit card debt. And studies show that people with credit card debt report trouble sleeping, they're unproductive at work, and they make poor health decisions. And in fact, this syndrome got its own medical term. It's called debt anger syndrome. So instead of being in denial about their credit card debt, victims with credit card debt get angry. I mean, very angry. And their anger is directed everywhere. Yeah. They're angry at the creditors who continue to send them these bills. They're even angry at the mailman who's delivering the bills. Yep. They're angry at their spouse for not making enough money. They're angry with their children for needing new braces or that new summer camp. And they're angry at themselves and they're feeling guilty. And I'll tell you, this is no way to live. And I talked about financial insomnia and divorce, and it's all rooted in people's money problems. And the typical spiel, I mean, just Google how to retire. I mean, Susie Orman came out with a report, we're in a retirement debacle, and she's right. But here are my 5 steps to get at it. And it was, determine your goals, set up your budget, monitor your spending, cut up your credit cards, and stop going to Starbucks. And that's the general step-by-step process that people tell you to do, but it doesn't work, right? Because people know they need to do that stuff, as we talked about, and it's sound advice, but rarely does anyone follow them. No. So when I finally came to this realization that those old school methods, information does not cause transformation, and all that stuff does not work. I mean, that's when I set out to uncover the truth and why so many people are not financially secure, and why the statistics of people are suffering were only getting worse. And I knew deep down there had to be a better way, a solution that actually worked, something that would foster an environment that really compelled people to make the right decisions with their money long term. And I knew it wasn't another financial plan or another financial product. And frankly, what we discovered, and this was a team approach, changed everything. And it's had a profound impact on people's lives over the years. And so in collaboration with the thought leader in neuroscience, his name is J.W. Wilson, we came up with a 5-stage process that we take people through. And it's really a journey of self-discovery and awareness where people understand clearly who they are in the world, what's deeply meaningful to them. They've uncovered and unleashed those beliefs that are holding them back. They became aware of what they were doing was never going to get them what they wanted. We showed them how to incorporate rituals in their life. So they had guardrails, they had a plan, and then also mentorship, how to build a team of mentors around them for accountability and long-term success. And so this 5-stage process is what I've been teaching around the world for many years now. And it's a game changer, really. And it's unlike any other financial program out there, because it really gets to the core of why people are struggling. And then it shows people how to alleviate themselves from the behaviors that have been holding them back. So thanks for letting me share that with your audience. No. I have an online course right now on my website that people can go check it out on jointhrivepath.com, jointhrivepath.com. And this process, it's rooted in neurological science. It's not opinion, it's actual science. And really what we have developed has led to a revolution in financial guidance and well-being. So we're really excited to offer this. And I love teaching this stuff. If you can tell, my boy.
Well, because like you said, I mean, if you set out with just another financial program, there's probably millions of those out there that people can seek. This is actually reprogramming how you think, or better understanding how you think, and then reprogramming, who your teachers are and who you seek out for that information, right? This is much more of a self-assessment and a self-awareness and an educational tool that you can then use to build your financial freedom from there.
And if you don't mind, let me add this for more
Sure.
context. In all the years we've been doing this, we realized that, and we developed this concept called above the line, below the line. And above the line, that's your vision. That's how you see your life in the future, you and your family and so forth. That's the overall overarching vision that you are so determined to get. Then you have your mission or your purpose. This is why you are here. This is the true purpose of your life. And then you have the goals. These are the specific goals you need to hit or want to hit in order to achieve your purpose, mission, and vision. And when you look at successful, wealthy individuals, most of their time is spent above the line. Below the line, these are the products, the strategies, the tactics, the tools, right? Sadly, most people spend 90% of their time below the line on these things that are going to make them money quick. Whereas 10% of their time is spent above the line. And it's totally reversed the way it should be.
Where do the wealthy spend their time?
It's above the line. They're focused on their vision. I mean, like for example, I'll take you for example. Just knowing you, I know you understand what your true vision is. You understand what your purpose is, and you understand the goals that you need, right? We could drop Tony into basically any industry, a car dealership, a coffee company, you're in real estate, whatever it is, and you would thrive. You would crush it because you understand the big picture. You understand what you're trying to accomplish. Most people have not taken the time to really uncover that stuff. That's the missing piece. That's the paradigm shift that all the other people go straight to the bottom line, the below the line. For example, as you mentioned, I've been blessed to have been able to speak around the world at these conferences, and people will always come up to me and say, "Hey, John, what do you think about Bitcoin? Should I get into multi-level marketing? I'm thinking about real estate. What about day trading? Should I buy Google?" All of these below the line solutions, and they run off and they spend thousands of dollars on these programs, right? Thinking that this box full of DVDs and workbooks is going to suddenly change their life. They buy what I call hope in a box, and they get home, they put it on their kitchen counter and they stare at it, hoping something's going to jump out and change their life, right? Yep. They may open a DVD or a workbook, but invariably, a very short period of time, that $2,000 program is on the floor in the bedroom as a doorstop, right?
Yep.
Now, as opposed to feeling hopeful, they're even more depressed than they were before.
That's
because
right.
They feel like they failed once again. So a lot of those below the line solutions actually do more harm than good. Yeah. But here's the problem, the compounded problem. 6 months, 9 months later, they're back at the same conference, coming up to me and saying, "Well, I tried that. What do you think about this?"
They never learn. They're in this cycle of,
yes.
It's unfortunate.
The problem is their above the line is not set. That's why entrepreneurs go wrong. That's why 9 out of 10 businesses fail. That's why only 1% of businesses do over $1 million. That's why most people are struggling and living paycheck to paycheck. It's because they have not figured out they're above the line. And that's what we address in my program. Thrive.
So so how long have you had that in place, that program?
I've been teaching this for over 10 years.
Wow. Okay.
And we finally converted it into an online program because up until then, it's just been live. But I wanted to get it out to the masses. And so we took a long time building this online course, which is available now. So it's been very well received. And it's really changing people's lives.
How many people would you say you've put through that program? Ballpark.
Oh, gosh, hundreds. And the people I've spoken to has been thousands.
Okay, so it's a mature program. I want the viewers to understand that this has been in development, not even in development. I shouldn't say that. This has been out there for years, and hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, have already been through it. So this is a very mature type of program that's out there that's actually impacting people's lives in a very positive way. So kudos to you, John, for putting that together, for having that vision, right, on what actually is preventing people from taking action, and how we need to reprogram that, because it's a serious problem. It's somewhat of a epidemic we have right now. So, John, if folks want to learn more about what you do and whatnot, where can folks find you?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm on all the social media platforms, but the best way to connect with me is on my website at John MacGregor. That's MAC, johnmacgregor.net. JohnMcGregor.net. And I've got a lot of free tools and resources on my website that people can download. They can really start their journey to financial freedom immediately. And of course, there's information about my course and access to my book as well. So in fact, my book is, if you pay shipping and handling, just shipping and handling, we'll send the book to you for free. So
wow, that's amazing. That's huge. Yeah, I've been to your website. I've looked around. For the viewers, just so you know, John has a lot of great content there. Go check it out. Just peruse his website. He also has his podcasts on there. His conversations with Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki, Kim Kiyosaki, and with others. So just rock star stuff there. So John, we covered a lot of ground today. We did a lot of value, a lot of content. I think the viewers are going to walk away with a lot of information, a lot of hopefully life-changing content for them. So thank you so much for your time today, John. I appreciate you.
It's an absolute honor to be on your show. It really is. Love the work you're doing. I mean, you're changing lives. It's just so awesome. And there's no better time for this show than right now, given this hurricane, the eye of the storm that we're facing. So I commend you again for doing this. So
yeah,
it's awesome.
Thank you, John. I appreciate your support. You guys have been so awesome to me. So I appreciate you guys. Maybe in another 6 months, we'll have you back, and hopefully we'll be able to have some better news to share with the viewers.
Yeah, let's hope. And by the way, congratulations on your book. That is tremendous. I know what it takes to write a book, and it's pretty awesome that you did it. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much, John.
Dying to read it. So
yeah, absolutely. We'll get together next time I'm out there in California. I owe you at least a steak dinner for coming on today.
Just sign my book. Sign your book for me. That's all I ask.
You got it, John.
All right, Tony.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All righty.